Okay, hold on. Okay, and we're live.
We are. Very much so.
Very nice. People are coming in, so we can get started. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. My name is Pasha of AMZ Optimized, and here I have today Jérôme de Guigné of
I'm
e-Comas. Please, can you
e-Comas.
say your name again with your French accent?
Jérôme de Guigné.
Oh, so I got pretty close. Okay. Well,
Yeah. 70%.
okay,
Good.
I'll take it.
Good.
I'll take it. So here we have a live Q&A. You have two CEOs. We've been in the game for a long time, with e-commerce, with Amazon, with all the new developments, watching it unfold and using it daily. So a little bit about myself. Started selling in 2011 and have been operating AMZ Optimize since 2019 as a full service Amazon agency, currently expanding into TikTok and helping brands on TikTok as well, because it helps your Amazon sales. And we primarily focus on US management, and Jerome handles things on the other side of the pond. Jerome, do you want to share a little about yourself?
Yeah, I was trying to think when I started to work on Amazon. So I started on the European side, I suppose, in 2006 or 2007, probably. And I was working more on the vendor side in Europe because all the brands at that time was on the vendor side. I moved from the brand side to creating my own company agency in 2013, and we were helping a lot of vendors at that time, and it evolved. Now we have mostly sellers, but we still have a fair amount of vendors also. We are helping a lot of brands expand into Europe. The company is nearly 15 years old. We started with the typical agency, Amazon agency. Then we've evolved into a distribution company. So we buy and sell ourselves products. We have a digital marketing leg, and we have, similar to Pasha, also a tool we built, which is called Clary6. So a technology part of the group. So we enjoy a lot what we do, and what we like doing is expanding brands and growing business, especially in Europe, but also in the US with the help of Pasha.
Great. Thanks, Jerome. So I'd like to invite anybody here listening on this live Q&A to ask questions. I invite anybody to share, something that you're working on that you need help with. We're happy to do a live audit of any ASIN or answer any question about expansion or new marketplaces or AI or anything that is on your mind that you need help with in your business. We're here. That's what we're doing this for, is you got us for free. Pick our brain. You have two guys, not even one, and two heads are better than one, as they say. So here's a nice opportunity. So we'll wait for those to come in. And in the meantime, Jerome and I can just have a chat. There's a couple Q&As that I collected offline before this call that we can kind of go through. And I can maybe just pick one out of, just pick a card out of the hat. So let me pull that up.
Do you want me to choose a number or something, or no? Or not?
No, I got one that I like actually right here. Okay. So there's one that says, if you were launching a brand on Amazon today, this is a good one, with $20,000 budget, how would you allocate it? So that was $20,000 used to be a ton of money to launch a brand back in the day, 10 years ago, right? You could do a lot with that. But these days it's kind of limited, right? Because when you think about inventory and even just establishing an LLC and doing all of that formation, that cuts into the cost. So insurance and whatnot. How would you allocate the 20K, Jerome?
Is 20K also to buy products and everything?
That's the budget.
Okay. So my first point is that, yeah, that's not a lot of money, because basically when you the first cost will be building the product and paying for the product. And if you're new in the business, you will probably have to pay upfront quite a bit of money to get the stock, then to get it sold out. and then with Amazon you'll get paid, but it takes a bit of time. So that rotation, that sort of cash inflow is probably not enough to get going, except if you have a product which is nearly free and which you sell for a lot of money. But that's a dream a bit. So I would probably not go on Amazon if you had a small amount, but find like more of a niche product, and then find like maybe a very small and like a distribution in your local area, and do more of like a people's business. Because like you said, Pasha, is Amazon nowadays is a lot about investment, and the barrier to entry has become really the amount of money you can invest and stock you need to have to make it all work. So yeah, it's a bit tough to be successful with only 20,000 in your pocket, or you really need to start very small, and it will take a lot of time. But you will need money, like distribution and growth, and yeah, growing your business is a lot about having cash to invest, because normally your suppliers will want to be paid before you get paid. So you need, yeah, you need cash.
Interesting. So I have a little bit of a different approach that I would take. And again, it could be because I'm US side. It works maybe differently here, or maybe money goes different directions. But this is the approach that I would take. Like if I had 20K, I was just starting, I had nothing. Because 20K is a lot to save for somebody, maybe for a young person that wants to get out of the 9 to 5 world, right? They have a lot of expenses. You can put maybe scrap together $1,000 a month for 20 months, right? And you have that investment. It feels like it's been a long time coming. So what I would do is try to look online and read reviews about problems that people are having in various different niches, and say, okay, well, that's something that's a clearly solvable problem that I'm seeing across these 10 items in the same niche, that everybody complains about this one specific function. And then you go out and try to find a supplier that can help you to create a product that solves that function or that problem, or is a replica of the same product but modified for that, and doesn't cost any kind of additional fees for custom tooling or molds or something like that. So there's no huge quantities that you'd have to order, and then you'd have to order enough units where you can make some sales and get something back, but also give some units away, but not too many where you spend all your money and then you have nothing left for marketing. So it's a bit of a tough challenge, but it's doable, I think, at least up until that point. You get the product. I think you try to learn as much as you can. You spend a bit more time, because at this point you have more time than money, apparently, right? Like with 20K, it's limited. So, you have to be on one side of the fence if you want to launch. And I would try to figure out how to make some basic listings on Amazon, on TikTok, open a TikTok account, and a D2C site. Like there's plenty of AI tools that will help you. There's plenty of information out there that can help you. Even Claude can help you. And I would try to find creators online to talk about your product, offer them a nice commission, send them product for free. Hopefully it's not a super expensive product, where you can, give away maybe like 100 units to start. And I feel like that might be enough to get a little bit of momentum, maybe sell through the inventory. And once you have proof of concept, there are capital partners that you can reach out to, which would look at your business numbers and say, that we like the product, we like the little bit of cash flow happening here. Maybe we can lend you X amount, and that'll help you to fund your next order, which might be a bigger order if you didn't end up making any profits on the first batch. That's the approach that I would take.
And it's interesting because it's really one of the great differences between doing business in Europe and the US. There's a lot of use of leverage in the US and funding, whereas in Europe, we like no one will, if you go, like it will be very difficult to find funding for like something which is being on a small scale like that. You need to show much more proof of concept, and which shows a difference. The whole thing is, I think, for me, it's being aware that indeed distribution, it's become very easy to sell. Anyone can set up a TikTok shop. Anyone can, like, it's so easy. It goes within seconds. Okay, there's a bit of KYC, know your customer, so you need to have your identity checked and so things like that. But it's so easy. Now, the thing is that because it's so easy, so many people can be there. And then the fight begins because you need to be found. And if you're, depending on your category, the cost per click, like the keywords to be found, are more or less expensive. So where I totally agree with what you were saying, Pasha, is like if you find a niche or products that really people have a pain point and are very vocal about, this kind of product is amazing, but usually you have those flaws. It's true that you have a niche, and we, as agencies, sometimes we've been helping brands which start with like a mum who designed a potty for her own kid because she couldn't find one, and it's a great idea because they said, or even we work with Bbox, and it started, they have lunch boxes because it's 2 months. Said, wow, the lunch boxes are crap. Like, I need to find someone really good quality to put my kids' food in a real good lunchbox. Boom, the idea was there because they couldn't find, as mums, the product. So that indeed is, this thing is the beginning, and then they found the money, they started, but I, like, with 20,000, it's going to be tough to make a huge success. But or you really need to have a product which is so amazing that someone, indeed an investor, will look at it and say, "Wow, that's quite amazing." But you need to make sure you've protected it, that it can't be copied, and so on. But yeah,
Yeah, it's doable, but it's tight, and I think the intellectual property part is the key there. Where if you're just selling another commodity, there's nothing very exciting about it. It's not going to go very far. So, okay, we can move on to the next one. We can say this one I like. Okay, we can do this one. Which parts of your Amazon business should never be automated with AI?
I had fun story and true story. I won't give names, but I talked to someone, not specifically from my industry at all, but he was saying that he was in a meeting with colleagues, and he was sitting in the back, and he was seeing some of the staff going on Claude or Chat GPT, and like describing the situation and saying, okay, the like, it was an agency, I can't remember, someone was presenting, and he was asking, okay, what's a clever question to ask? The And it's like people using Claude or Chat GPT as their, like, psychologist or something. It's like, you can't, some things, it's a machine, so you can't, it's not a friend, it's not someone you can, give your inner secrets and he will give you guidance. Well, it's questionable. But for me, this whole thing about, if we translate it to your normal life, you can't rely on your emotional life, on the business life. For me, it's strategic thinking. It's like, okay, strategic decision that you use Claude or Chat GPT as a, okay, giving you different options. But at some point, if you're too reliant on that, it will probably design your own strategy. But then what's your difference? Like, where's the blue ocean thing? Like, he will create the answer that probably most people, he expects is the most probable answer you want to hear. So it's like, is that the best answer to a strategy, for example? So for me, from the top part, it's like, okay, and for me, it's like always looking at what kind of questions am I asking. Am I asking, questions which are not questions to him, should be to another person who maybe is very different to me and will not be aligned with me, because Claude is very aligned with you usually, and or he will say, "Oh, you're right," all the time. So for me, those kind of thinking things. And then you've got things which are impossible to solve with AI, despite Amazon saying so. But for example, product upload, like KYC, a lot of things which needs like case opening and stuff like that. There's, at some point, it's not AI, it's just getting things done, interacting, finding okay, this account is closed, or there's another route and stuff like that. Usually AI doesn't work out very well. We've seen that.
Yeah, agreed. And to add, we actually have a comment that I'll pull up over here. Somebody says customer care should not be automated, and I couldn't agree more. there's something very aggravating. I don't know if you guys have had this experience with getting automated messages from a bot that thinks it knows what your issue is, and you're just explaining to it 100 times that it's not, and then there's not even like a clear pathway to get a human rep. So some small companies try to completely outsource their customer care to AI. Maybe they're even trying to save on a customer care salary entirely. So anything that would essentially, like, the idea of replacing people with AI, in my opinion, is a bit, I think, premature, at least in this stage of AI development. So that's my take. I agree with you, Jerome. I think generally speaking, anything that you feel like you're outsourcing to AI, it should not feel that way. Like if you're giving AI the ability to make strategic high-level decisions for you, then there's an issue. Like, you really should just lean on it for, specific tasks that AI can handle well and that you're vetting. It's like, human in the loop is always going to be the thing, in my opinion. I don't think AI is going to replace any of that. And if it does, then we have a big problem because we're giving it too much leverage.
And sometimes I see even in our teams, this bullshit can be a bit wrapped up in AI. So it's like someone who didn't have the time, didn't think about it, just asked Claude to make a file. You receive the file and there's lots of information because AI produces lots, but not relevant, or it's like it doesn't make sense, or even it does sometimes for you and you say, wow, I've got this file, but I can't really work with it. It's not very smart. And it's not
refined,
well proof, or it's like it doesn't work in real life. So some players or some stakeholders can come and say, and they prepared some things like, see, I prepared this nice and shiny. Okay, did you think about it? Did you really try it out? Did you reprompt? Because it's okay to use AI, but you still have to think. You still have, is it the right document? Because Chat or Claude is really good at generating stuff, but it sometimes doesn't understand because it doesn't have all the context, sometimes because you didn't explain everything, or just because it doesn't know. So for me, it can be amazing, but I'm kind of sometimes a bit, okay, you came with a great document. Is it really, did you put like sorts and into your prompts and stuff like that? It's still, you have still to drill down to understand if there's work inside.
I sometimes can spend up to an hour, even more, going back and forth, or even multiple days going back to the same chat, refining, having conversations until you get something that is like so deeply connected to like what exactly it is that you're looking to explain. And only at that point should you present. Like, sometimes I agree with you. It's so funny to get these documents that have 5 pages and you don't take anything away from it. It's just so fluffy that there's no actual substance to what's being said, and you have no idea. And you see websites like that were designed by Claude that, I'm a person, I'm a consultant, I'm a company, and this is what we do. And you look at every page and it says a lot of words and it all looks nice, but you have no idea. Like, I'd rather have 3 sentences which give you complete clarity than 3 pages which give you a bunch of nonsense. So anyway.
And we have a lot of like English for us. Most of us in the team is not our first language, so a lot of the team would use Claude, for example, to create PowerPoint and stuff like that. And it's very easy to find out that it was used, especially if sentences don't make any sense. So I usually go say, okay, so you put this sentence on this deck. What do you mean by that? No one knows because it was generated by Claude.
To the next one, I actually have another from the audience. So Tomasz, sounds Polish, Sobecki, is asking how to use logistics advantage against Chinese sellers. I think this is a great question. Everybody's trying to figure out, how do we compete with the Chinese sellers, right? Because the Chinese sellers, they have the best prices. My answer: sell something that Chinese sellers can't sell. That is the absolute best advantage that we have. In terms of logistics, it works too, because if you're sourcing from another country, then how are they going to, like that is the advantage. If you're asking about how to beat the Chinese at their own game, I don't know if you can, my friend, because even if you can beat them logistically, they still have better prices than you because they're the manufacturers. What do you think, Jerome?
they're incredibly agile, and they like red tape is like they will go around red tape anytime and find solutions. So I totally agree with you. It's like, okay, what's your competitive advantage they cannot fight with? So is it the fact that you produce yourself, that the design is local, that what makes you special and better than them? And typically local delivery. And it's interesting, in Europe they started to have laws which put special taxes for um, uh, small parcels, for example, and that is a great, like, sometimes the laws can help you a bit against them. So then that makes the small parcels delivery a bit more expensive for them. But having like more closer stock to customers using Amazon FBA, sometimes making sure that the product doesn't look Chinese, that the instruction manual is nice, that the packaging and the package is nice. All those small things which make you look special and more local, for me, is very, very important. And like customer service, we talked about it a minute ago. It's like, okay, we have a customer service here and speaks good English or local language. It's very important.
Our friend Thomas likes our responses, and he mówi po polsku. So I invite more people to ask questions. You see, that was a good one. We like those juicy questions that get to the heart of what the actual issues are. And otherwise, we'll just keep going through our list here. So I have another one which I like from our list. At what point should a seller start thinking about acquisitions or exiting? That's a good question, because I like it's not just pertaining to Amazon, it's pertaining to a brand or even an agency, right? Any kind of business, you can ask that question. Like, at what point should I start thinking about that? I think when it comes to exiting, you should look at a plan that is maybe even a couple of years behind. Like, first of all, you have to understand who you're exiting to. Who is your buyer? Because it will define the question, the answer tremendously. Because there's different buyer pools depending on the size, depending on the business, depending on the category. Um, and then in terms of like how clean the numbers look, right? If anybody here has ever been through an acquisition process, if you don't have good clean books that clearly explain and define and tell the story of like what your business has really been producing over the last 2-3 years, then it'll be very hard for your buyer to understand what they're actually buying and to find a good connection with somebody who wants the business. So there's a couple things that go into that. Jerome, what do you think?
Well, for you've been a seller and you've been into that process. So I think that it's very interesting to see everyone's story around that. It's true that understanding it's the why, why are you doing it, are you wanting to sell, and who do you want to sell to is defining uh, blocks. If it's really an investment to have ROI, or it's because you want to build something which will last a long time, is a lot of different questions. For me, the when is more about maybe if you've had enough, or what's your own plan, because you can go on with a company if it generates good revenue for you and you do more stuff and you're excited about it, then it's probably not the right time. If you want to do other stuff and you like on a 3 years 5 year cycle, then you should organize yourself to do that. What is usually not the good timing is when you're having financial difficulties, or you're struggling, or you're in a hurry. That's usually when things don't work out super well. So try to be in a situation where you could sell, but you don't have to, and then you're super free, because then you could go on as you are, or you could sell. But if you have no other choice, like the idea of the 20 grand at the beginning we were talking about, if you have no options then to sell or to find money, you're a bit in a weak spot. So I I view the world a bit in power plays a bit. So it's like, are you in the strong seat or like at least a medium seat or in a weak position? If you have to sell, you're in a weak position. So it's not great to have a negotiation. So it's how do you make yourself strong to at least have a good discussion and you know who you want to partner with or not. That makes a big difference.
That's very valuable because if you're in a weak spot and you sell into weakness, you can get taken advantage of, and something that you've poured your heart and soul and resources into over the course of a long period of time can then be degraded very quickly. So you definitely want to sell into strength, as they say. So,
Exactly.
Jerome, this is a question regarding international expansion. What international marketplace offers the biggest opportunity right now? Typically, like when I'm looking at numbers, I'm seeing Germany is a pretty big one. What do you think?
So that's a very typical question, I would say. We get a lot. You've got in the Amazon world of Europe, two countries are the biggest. You've got Germany, which is number one, and UK, which is number two, very close. The other countries are much smaller and are behind. So Germany is the biggest and it's linked to other European countries, so it's probably the biggest opportunity. However, it's a total different culture and a total different language, so the barrier to entry is higher. On the other hand, UK is smaller because it's an island in a sense. It's still a big market per se, but it's smaller and doesn't give access to the other markets. But it's a much closer culture to the American, same language, so it's a much easier. The barrier to entry is much lower in a sense. So it's all about, do you have money to invest in going into the European markets or not? So if you want to have the best ROI short term, maybe the UK is you start with the UK and then you expand to the other countries. But the biggest potential is obviously going into Germany, then linking into France, Spain, Italy, Netherlands, and then Poland, and then Eastern Europe. But those are the two main options, I would say.
And should sellers localize listings completely or start with just some whatever translations they can do and then optimize later?
It it's evolving in time because it's because in the past, like translations were not as good in like our friends
Yeah.
Claude and Chat GPT. So it's true that the gap is closing and that the quality of the language is getting much better. So the thing is, like I said, Germany is the biggest market, so you probably want to be super careful about the translations in Germany and make sure that this market, for example, is very big. Now, the other markets like Spain or Italy or even France are might probably smaller on the Amazon scale. Maybe you can use like translated, like automatically translated, not by Amazon. Usually, that's not very good, but you translate them with like Claude or ChatGPT. But Germany, you might want to have someone involved and proofreading that there's nothing stupid or nothing wrong there.
Fair. I have nothing to add. We don't really do too many translations on this side unless you're getting into
No, Spanish.
Mexico,
Yeah.
Spanish. But I agree
I
with
see
that.
Thomas is disagreeing with Germany.
LLMs close the gap.
I'm not sure I understand.
He says, I started on Germany in 2015 without German and only Polish and reached 2 million euro revenue.
Yeah, but the thing is, Germany is the biggest market. Depending on your product and your category, it's more or less relevant. It's also 2015, 2026 isn't the same world. The number of people in Germany, like if and you do advertising in Germany or in France or Spain, has nothing like the cost, or and US is even more expensive. The cost per click is not at all the same in France or in Spain than in Germany, because you have less competitors. Depending on your product, like on the quality of your products, or if it's well known or not, the category, it can make more or less of a difference. Our experience is that nowadays, if you launch and you don't have brand awareness and you don't have a good content, it's going to be very difficult to get customers and to get sales. Or you would have to spend a lot of money in advertising, and that the ROI is getting much less.
Yeah, and I guess, just kind of thinking out loud here. I mean, it's clear that Amazon is a huge winner in the US. Would you say that Amazon is the same in Europe, or you might even have better luck? Like, because I know you guys manage other marketplaces like Bowl.com, right? Like, is it possible that you would have way more success selling on Bowl than even Amazon?
Oh yeah, so it that's the beauty of of Europe, and the complexity is each country you start from scratch. It's not because you're very successful in Germany that you'll be successful in France. Actually, not. So some brands, it's actually funny because even you talk to each other, and like household brands from in England and in France are not the same. Like, or they have different names or something like that. So it's true that in the past it was even more so. Now with the world is flatter, but still, each country is a new challenge. Now, what I said at the beginning is UK and Germany, Amazon is huge. It's similar to the size of Amazon in the US. It's like probably, depending on the category, Amazon is 50% or more of the total market share of a given category in Germany or in the UK. Now, if you go in other countries, it's not at all the same. If you go in France, you have like have discounters are like Carrefour is very big, so you would have like C discount. You've got VP, so you've got other players which have been there before Amazon. So Amazon's got one third of the market, probably, and maybe a bit more, but not really more than that. So it's much lower than in Germany. In Spain or in Italy, where e-commerce is much less developed, it's even lower. If you go in Holland, bol.com is 5 times or 10 times bigger than Amazon. If you go in Poland, where Tomasz is, Allegro will be a much better marketplace than Amazon, so on. So I could give examples from every countries in Europe, but it's true that you need to have a bit of a strategy then as you expand, but that's level 3 or level 4. The level 1 is, okay, should I go to Germany, UK, both of them, and expand into all of Europe on Amazon? Once you have that, you can start to refine. You've got the easy marketplaces and the less easy ones. So that's where you have a staged approach on your strategy.
Yeah. We have Tomasz that said Allegro in Poland is the kind is Amazon can't beat it. There's a lot of marketplaces across Europe. That's very true. I have a funny story about a time when we were visiting some family friends a couple of years ago, and they were in Poland, and I took the guy to he was working in the mines, and he said he's coming home tired from work, and I said, man, you gotta sell on marketplaces. Like, this is your opportunity right now. So I remember walking with him in the marketplace by the Baltic Sea, and we were finding all the guys who were coming with their sheepskins. There's like a medical grade sheepskin that is very popular from the mountains. They're bringing it over there, and anyhow, prices were really low, and like you can even sell it on Allegro, like huge markup, because these guys are farmers. They don't know how to use Allegro. Maybe now they do, right? Just like the Chinese learn how to sell on Amazon. But there was an opportunity there, and coming back to Poland, like every couple of years, I'm seeing that marketplace grow so much, whereas like 10, 15 years ago, nobody bought stuff online over there. So every country has their own series of marketplaces, and the world is becoming, the globalization is real. The logistic infrastructure that's being developed is real. And we're seeing that not just throughout Europe now, but also South America and Africa and Australia. I mean, Australia has been, but they're kind of far out and they have their own. But anyhow, the globalization,
and especially Eastern Europe countries like Poland is a huge country. Romania is a huge country. In Romania, you've got eMag. in Poland, you've Allegro. It's like this will be probably the heart beating space of e-commerce in the coming years for Europe, because the Western Europe is very saturated, especially like I said, UK, Germany. The Chinese are trying to get into the market, but it's really tough. And Eastern Europe will be really the where the fight will be on, because those markets are huge and partially untapped. So if like what we're doing similar to Pasha, we're going on TikTok, but we're also investing now in the Eastern Europe marketplaces, because if you want growth and rapid growth, those are the marketplaces you want to go to.
So how do you decide when a marketplace isn't worth pursuing? That's another question on here.
So not all the marketplaces are out like Amazon, where you can sell everything to everyone, and it's very multi categories. Some are very specific, and actually are very good. Like you have one in which is coming from Germany, which is active ultra Europe, is called Thomann, and it's about music. And it's usually, if you're in France, for example, the music instruments or stuff on Amazon is not very good. Like this platform has got all the instruments, everything you would want for an instrument. So that is the best, by far the best marketplace for that type of like instruments or musical equipments. So it's understanding like, is every, or Zalando, maybe if you would want to go, like, are they doing your type of products, if it's in fashion, or are they opening a category for you and stuff like that. So it's understanding like Boots in the UK, we're starting listing some products on Boots. Like Boots is a pharmacy at the beginning, so you can't sell anything on Boots, right? So it's really understanding this thing. And when it's not your own country, you say, oh, well, I'll list myself on everything. Or it could be DIY, like Leroy Merlin in France, which is in other countries, it's DIY. So you need to have a link with DIY somehow. So the this understanding, and it goes with when you go in a new market, you need to understand, who's selling where, who are my competitors, who are the marketplaces, where can I really make a difference. That's why usually Amazon is so simple, because Amazon is more or less the same everywhere, right? It sells everything. And if you're successful in the US, there's a good reason you're good. You have elements which show you could be successful in Europe. It depends then on your brand awareness, on the competitors, and so on. But the Amazon works the same way. It's not this. It's not true for all marketplaces.
I will say also what's worked pretty well is looking at some of these other marketplaces, especially the DIY, as you say. So that's kind of like the equivalent of, we have an Etsy here, or how eBay used to be maybe back in the day. eBay not so much, but it's transformed. But I would say Etsy is the closest, and those markets are really great data sources to see what people are interested in. That's more like kind of outside the norm, like kind of commodity buying, something that is more innovative. And you can find, like, for example, a lot of people are looking for those little cedar rings that you can put in your closet to keep the moths away, right? So you would see that somebody's making them by hand, and they're beautiful, and they're made of, and so that's something that you can say, all right, well, I can probably source this locally and not have to pay a bunch on shipping lumber everywhere. And so you can employ your local lumber mill to give you a round of these and try selling them. And so these markets become ideas. And so I think that the idea is there's opportunity on both sides of the pond. And for US sellers looking to get into Europe, I think there's tremendous opportunity, especially getting into Eastern Europe if possible. But there's, like you said, there's a lot of saturation, but I think for the right product, there's still room. Whereas it feels like in the US, like there really is no breathing room. But what the US is very hungry for, vice versa, on the European side coming into the US, is innovation. Like, people are super open, especially Amazon is the perfect platform for people to try out new products, new ideas, new solutions. It's a great testing ground for that. And it's very ripe for that sort of testing new brands. Like, it's never been that easy for a small company to enter into the market if they have a good product at a good price, and they have good reviews. So I think on both sides, like, if there's a good fit, it's not very difficult to make that jump on both sides to test out these markets. And actually, like Jerome has, which I talk about this a lot, like the whole distribution concept of trying markets through you guys before you even do all the VAT and compliance. Like this is the thing. Whenever I speak to U.S. sellers, they always say, "Oh my God, like European expansion is so difficult, so expensive. Every country has their own regulation." It's true, but if you can just test out, let's say 100 units, 300 units in a marketplace and actually see, like, is there demand? Like, do people care? Then that makes it a lot better to make a educated decision, right? About like where you should actually make the investment. So just throwing that out there.
And it's true that Europe is a huge market, and we've seen that you've got Western Europe, you've got Eastern Europe, but it is like a gross area, and for a lot of American brands, it's untapped totally. And the thing is, there is a barrier. You need to be able to invest. You need to understand a bit. You need to have like mental space and time to look into it. And it's true that that's why we are here in a sense, and why we've developed some also a distribution part. It's like some brands can't do all of that themselves. It's the best way to control all of your distribution worldwide. Sometimes it isn't possible. So we do it in a capacity sometimes which is a mix where we do a bit of both, where we do it agency and distribution, or we do all the distribution part. It's all about a good mix and making sure that the product makes sense and that they can address a need in the European market. But usually that's we have a lot of success stories of American brands coming into Europe that way. Yeah.
I have one question regarding brand left here, and this will be our final question unless somebody jumps in on the comments. Thank you, Tomasz, by the way, for all of your engagement today. Last question is, how important is brand storytelling now compared to 5 years ago? Has branding changed?
I think it's as important as before or 100 years ago. I think the story behind it, the Father Christmas Coca-Cola, the whole like giving like a dream and make people dream, like, and you like it's true in politics, it's true in marketing, it's true everywhere. Now the thing is that how it's evolving is, I think, social commerce and social media, TikTok, Instagram, are influencing and making the brand stories evolve. And it's more about this direct connect to the consumers. So it's creating content which sort of speaks to a lot of different audiences and specifically on those new formats. So you probably, depending on who's your audience and your age and so on, and who you're talking to, you need to deliver that brand story onto multiple areas. So Amazon is a great way, but it's a very static and very organized way. Like TikTok, Instagram, video, more lively, more okay. You have to do stuff all the time, produce content, engage people, tell the story, and like decline it in a lot of different things. That's a new brand storytelling way, which is much more creative, much more going in all directions, but it has to be around the same storytelling. And we work with some big brands. We work with Michelin tires, for example. If you see the worldwide campaign of Michelin, it's about all transportation and for boats, for cars, for everything, and they have a very like, you can see the brand and the advertising, and you can find it everywhere. So this idea of having a very significant and like something which people can understand quickly, and you decline it everywhere, and that makes a difference for me, I think.
I agree. Brand is storytelling, and storytelling is everything. Like when it comes to human nature, right? Like storytelling has been around forever, and that's why we are so responsive to it. It's baked into the fabric of humanity in such a way that um, you can get a lot further down the line compared to just saying this thing solves this problem. It's speaking to who are you as a person and what values do you identify with, and then does this solution or this group of ideas with a solution baked into it align with those values that represent you and who you are. And I think that's been the case when it comes to culture and religion and ethnicity, presidents. It's all a brand, right? You are a brand. Like, what is the narrative that you are representing? So I think tapping into that is really at the heart of what branding really means, and it's done in a way of creative. It's done in a way of social, engagement and creating content around that. And it's funny. Like, I always use this analogy, but this one makes me laugh all the time. It's like if you walk down a popular street in like a town or a city, like I do that, right? Like with my wife, let's say, and then we're looking for a place to have an Americano or a coffee or whatever. We're looking for a coffee shop. And so there's four options. Like, you can stand and you can look around and see four coffee shops from where you're standing. How do you decide which one to go to? And so my wife always goes to the one that has the coolest looking logo. But it's like, what does the logo designer have to do with the quality of coffee that you're going to get? And so that's branding, because if you've paid attention enough to style the logo in such a way, then you've probably done the same inside the coffee shop, and to the quality of the coffee. It's the same, it carries through. So that's how branding communicates to people, the way that I see it.
That's a great analogy. And it's interesting. Tomasz was making a comment in writing that actually Amazon, because it created brand registry and has pushed like sellers to have a brand which is officially registered, has sort of pushed this further, saying, okay, it's actually a very important point to be successful on Amazon to have your brand and to have it registered, and so that you own the content. So in a sense, it's pushed more and more sellers to have their own brand and to make it even more a thing. So it's interesting because the other marketplaces don't have brand registries, so to speak. You have less issues of content being stolen also. But so it's interesting that even Amazon, because of its system, has pushed brands to really create brands to protect their own sales, and then to think about, okay, I need to tell a story with my brand. But brand, and which is an old-fashioned thing, having an old brand and telling a story and so on. It's as old as business, but it's still so valid on marketplaces and on Amazon specifically.
Yeah, they know that brand brings loyalty, which brings more engagement, which brings higher movement on their
Repeated
platform.
sales, yeah.
They want that. They want that subscribe and save and all of that. And look at the brand store page to add more things to your cart. So they really favor that. And if you're able to create a brand, then you win. Like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I started on Amazon was a directory of listings, like eBay. It was like that. You just have one-off stuff randomly. Nobody cares who's the seller. It's just whatever's the price that you're looking for is what you buy. So I will end with this lovely comment saying that you look like Andrew Huberman. I thought that was pretty funny. Andrew Huberman is a great guy. He's very smart.
Okay, well, like if I look smart from the outside, that's good news.
Yeah, but yeah, Jerome, it was a pleasure answering these
Thank you,
questions and engaging. Thank you guys for anybody who participated either silently or not silently. Shout out to Tomasz Sobecki. And yeah, that'll conclude for this Q&A session. Anybody has anything they want to chat to us privately, feel free to reach out. You know where to find us. We have Jérôme from e-Comas. You can find him on LinkedIn. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well, Pasha Knish from AMC Optimized. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.